Do you consider yourself to be media literate? Do you pick up on context clues? Do you look for sources or biases? Or do you take everything at face value? If you don't have an answer to that right away, here's one for you. If you watched Oppenheimer, the movie that came out last year, did you think it was glorifying the atomic bomb? Because some people actually did, all because the movie never explicitly said atomic bomb equals bad. Which is ludicrous to me, but we'll get into that. Well, not really. We're not actually going to talk about Oppenheimer more, but real quick, I'll just say, obviously it's not glorifying the bomb because it's talking about Oppenheimer's emotional turmoil over the bomb and how he literally hallucinates people's burning and dying in front of him, and he feels extreme guilt. So they don't need to explicitly say bomb equal bad because we're seeing through Oppenheimer bomb equals bad. Glad we had this chat. Cue the intro. Welcome back to Cinematic Conversations with me, myself, and I. The show where I discuss movies, the film industry, and whatever I want, because it's my show. I'm Lauren, and today I'll be discussing media literacy, or the lack thereof, depending on how you want to look at it. Today's episode is brought to you by me, so if you would like to support me, please consider subscribing, liking the video, commenting down below, or if you really want to go for gold, you can check out my Buy Me a Coffee, which is linked down below. Thanks in advance for any and all support. According to dictionary.com, because that was not behind a paywall, media literacy is officially defined as the ability or skills to critically analyze for accuracy, credibility, or evidence of bias the content created and consumed in various media, including radio and television, the internet, and social media. Now, this episode is mostly going to focus on media literacy and visual media because that's what I am most interested in, but media literacy also is valid in terms of books, articles. Obviously, they did mention radio, so radio, that's all still just as important. Just because I'm a more visual person, I'm going to be focusing on the visuals. The issue of media literacy is more important, I think, now than it's almost ever been because of artificial intelligence or AI. AI fills every aspect of media, honestly, where people can write books with AI, they can make pictures, they can alter pictures, they can make movies, they can do really anything with artificial intelligence, and that can be really dangerous and really scary. I know a lot of people focus on how fun it is and exciting, but it's really prone to making even more things go viral, and if it's going viral and it's fake news or just not true in general, regardless of how you want to categorize it, that's dangerous. And with media literacy, people will be able to recognize what's fake, what's real, and when it's real, try to understand where it's coming from so we can see that it goes beyond just whatever the headline is. Even if that might be an objective fact, we can understand the subjective pushings behind what we're seeing. Especially considering that social media platforms lack often consistent moderation or fact-checking, so misinformation can spread like wildfire, which is then expounded upon by generative and assistive AI coming in where people can make content faster and cheaper than literally ever, which just fills our feeds increasingly with spam and junk and bots and ads, and I'm sick of it. We have to take the situation we have right now and understand what we're looking at, or else. I also want to say no generation is immune to the effects of AI, fake news, and being media illiterate. I think sometimes we have this at least stereotype of older generations, bemoaning the internet, blaming all this stuff, and why the youth are crazy and believe crazy things. But that's just not true. Everyone is subject to being media illiterate and not understanding what's true and what's not. I think also with AI images, one of the places that I believe personally they run the most rampant, other than Twitter, would probably be Facebook. And the average user on Facebook is not what I would consider to be the youth. Only 43% of Facebook users are under 35, which means over 50% of them are 35 and up. So, I mean, obviously I'm not 35 by any means, but when I'm 35, although I think I would be, young to becoming a middle-aged adult or whatever, you're not the youth at that point. And people are just retweeting, oh my God, this is the most amazing image I've ever seen. How was this built? And it's it wasn't built. This doesn't exist. Obviously you can't have a pillow spa lichen wall in your basement. Like that just doesn't exist. But people don't realize that because people were trained, oh, this is an image of a person, look at their hands, look at their fingers. But if there's not a person there, and also if AI is just like obviously increased back then, it's like, what are we looking for to understand it's fake? And I'm not going to get too much into like studying AI images at all in this video. In fact, that's probably the last thing I'll say about it because I want to focus more on media literacy as a whole. But it's more just the fact that because of AI, we have to be even more conscious of the media we're consuming. And although it's a very important thing to me, many people, according to social psychologist Karen E. Dill-Shackleford, honestly dismiss majority media as harmless. They don't see why they need to overanalyze it. Especially it's like, oh, I see this on a daily basis. It's not a big deal. Which unfortunately leads to people being even more oblivious to any messaging and influence that the media has beyond just what they immediately see and maybe consciously recognize. This makes people more susceptible to what we might call subliminal messaging or subtle messaging or kind of overall agendas behind various media forces on all sides of political spectrums and everything. So in an effort to combat this, we have to have media literacy. Media literacy is also not new. It as a concept is about a century old. It actually started, as far as I could find researching, with this kind of concept with the British Film Institute in the late 1920s and early 30s, where the Film Institute was teaching its media users analytical skills. Weirdly, this also was happening in Wisconsin. Now, I only say weirdly because my fiance is British and my family half live in Wisconsin, so weird for me. Weirdly, the Wisconsin Association for Better Broadcasters also had a similar push. Notably, though, early stages of media literacy were trying to get people to consume less media versus understanding the media they were consuming because people were worried about how much that was being consumed. But the focus was a little bit different, but this is still kind of the origins of this idea. However, by the 60s, media literacy as a concept for interest was really on the decline because media, and mostly TV, was exploding around the globe. People were just so excited about all the media coming in. They were less focused on understanding the deeper meanings because it was just a new and exciting, innovative time. As of the 2010s into today, media literacy is sort of back. In many English-speaking countries, including Australia, Great Britain, and Canada, they really focus it as a learning concept. However, in America, it is not part of the US curriculum on a federal level. I don't want to imply that only English-speaking countries care about media literacy. It's just often used by other terminologies in non-English speaking countries. For instance, in Germany, the translation would be more media competency, which has a similar purpose of a full understanding of media. It's just not called the exact same thing. Aside from the general ability to understand the world around you better, which I think can be really hard to understand or fathom, like even for me, like what does that even mean? How can I understand the world better? There are several really specific and research-backed perks of being media literate, and I am going to name a few of them. One I think that is super, super important is that people can be trained by the age of 12, basically, to recognize biases in race and ethnicity in the media, which is really essential because if you don't understand and recognize biases, how are you going to be able to combat them, understand that they're harmful, and especially when it comes to societies like America, where I live and I deal with on a daily basis, can be very racially charged, and biases can impact generations and destroy lives, honestly. So we really need to get a grip on that and move forward and beyond that as a society, which is not going to be easy, but it will help if people can at least understand the biases that they see on a daily basis. Well, as someone who's in recovery from an eating disorder, this one's really important to me. Women and girls who have participated in media literacy training are less likely to report body dissatisfaction and have subsequent eating disorders because they're given more context to the bodies that they see all over the place. And I think that's so essential. Obviously, I don't exactly know what triggered my particular eating disorder, but overall, I think we're exposed to this ideal body, and it's literally almost impossible to have that as a regular person, let alone even the super rich people who have training and stuff, to be able to understand what goes into making, say, a photo shoot and understand the lighting, the angles, Photoshop, along with just a model's maybe ability as a professional to have a personal trainer and a personal chef and all this stuff. This is just things that when you have this information as you view things, it can just really inform how you take in the information. Additionally, As a more maybe timely example, medically, young adults are more likely to seek sources when they're exposed to controversial public issues, such as the pandemic, if they've been media literacy trained. Meaning people don't just necessarily see a headline and just immediately take it to be true. They actually look at the sources. And I do think Wikipedia can count as a source, just so you know. But they do actually look at the sources to see where this is coming from, where's this evidence coming from, who's backing this evidence, etc. Now you might be thinking, okay, Lauren, but how do I actually be media literate? Like if I didn't have official training? And I think just to start simply on the face of it, there are 4 dimensions of media literacy, as noted by the scholar W. James Potter, who has his doctorate in communication media. Now, my example to go along with these will be the movie poster for Challengers, because I'm seeing it everywhere. And I feel like it's a pretty easy to understand example in that we see movie posters all over the place. Like this is not new media that no one's accustomed to. So the first thing is cognitive, which is the information that's being conveyed. For example, in the Challengers poster, we're seeing it stars Zendaya, Josh O'Connor, and Mike Fast, and it comes out April 26th. There's some other information, but just for this example, right? The emotional dimension will be next, which is the feelings expressed. To me, I'm seeing that this is a competition that is more than over a tennis match, right? It's over her, this mysterious woman, from just the poster. Right? So who's gonna win? There's some intrigue. We don't know who these people are. There's romance, drama. We want in, right? We want to watch the movie. Then there's the aesthetic of the message, or the message artistry. Zendaya's character is huge. She literally can't fit even really her whole face in the frame, versus the boys are really small. So to me, I'm seeing they're the pawns, she's the queen. Then we have the moral, or the values conveyed in the media. I'm arguing that this poster conveys the idea the winner deserves the prize as kind of the moral tone. Who deserves what? Who deserves to win? And why do they deserve to win? And I'm gonna say the winner deserves the prize here. I haven't seen the movie, right? So I don't know. After I watch the movie, when it comes out, maybe I'll be like, aha. But right now, my idea is thinking like, winners deserve the trophies. So we can use these dimensions to evaluate what we're seeing and notice like initial reactions and thoughts. Because understanding our initial thoughts are actually like, is a really super important thing, because that's how we can recognize our own biases in ourselves and what we consume and how we see the world around us. What I will now be discussing are some additional elements, the who, what, where, when, how, why, those elements basically, to dive even deeper with an additional example. Now, if you're chronically online like me, this might also be common for you, but it's a little more confusing if you're maybe less chronically online. So this would be trad wife content, which is my next example, and the specific account we're going to talk about with a specific video would be Ballerina Farm. Who made the media? Who funds the media? What's the media for? Now, this is the Ballerina Farm account or family who made this media and funds their lifestyle. However, if we do some research, right, like now we're thinking who's funding the media? If you do a little bit of research, they don't just have money from farming. Hannah, the mother in Ballerina Farm's family, her husband's dad is actually David Neilman, who founded Azul, JetBlue, and Breeze Airways. So there's a lot of money in the family. But if you just looked at that video of this woman cooking, like you don't necessarily get that vibe just from an initial pass. But that's important to know that who's funding this lifestyle is more than just what you're seeing. So then we have what is there indirectly. I would say indirectly we're seeing contentment from motherhood and cooking, spending hours, making fresh food because that's the priority. Now, when was this media created? Now, this exact example is actually a little over a year old. It's from January 2023, but I picked it because it's their, as far as I could tell on their TikTok, it's their first pinned video. It has 182 million views. So I thought it was a good example for this, but they're still posting similar videos to this day. You can check out the account. Where is the media being shared or not being shared? So for me, I'm seeing it shared on TikTok, where tradwife content is flourishing, for lack of a better word. There's probably similar content flourishing on YouTube as well and other social media platforms, but this particular piece of content was shared on TikTok. Moving right along, we have why does this media exist? This is my opinion based off my understanding of tradwife content and what I know about general societal movements overall. And if I look like I'm reading here, it is because I wanted to be pretty careful about how I phrase this. This media exists as part of the general movement to get women out of the workplace and back into the homes. Similar to content where people who are often women proclaim their menstrual cycles affect them to the point where they should not have to work a regular job during various periods, the cooking, mother, trad wife content shows an ideal woman. It depicts a woman who makes her home and family the priority, not herself and her career. Which in of itself is a lie, because often trad wife content, like Ballerina Farm, these accounts are jobs. They are making money and they're bringing in income for the family. Additionally, these casual cooking videos are meant to seem relatable and aspirational, but they're not, because Ballerina Farm claims to be a mother of 8 children. How many mothers of 8 children can devote hours and hours of cooking every day if they don't have help to take care of those children? Also, this might be a little out of pocket, but that oven in the background alone cost approximately $20,000. Just the oven, like their stovetop oven. So I'm not seeing the relatability, but it's meant to feel that way. And this is not the last thing, but the last thing I would talk about for just the sake of this example is how are others reacting, or how might different people react to the media? Because it's important to understand that just how you respond to something is not how everyone responds, and being media literate is about understanding or trying to understand on a more global scale. So people are reacting lots of different ways. Like some people like me find the media to be deceiving, but aesthetic. At least that's how I kind of find. Like it's a lie, but I agree it looks pretty, it looks nice. This is coming from me, the girl who plays The Sims and likes to make their Sims kind of have a family. Like I like that content, although I know that it's fake, right? Other people really hate the content. Some people call it fetish content, which I personally am not sure about, but I do understand why people really dislike it to that extent. Other people, though, overall love the content, right? Like there's lots of views, they have lots of followers on these kind of accounts because they aspire to have this. Maybe in their lives as a woman, maybe they desire to be able to devote all their time to the house, the kitchen, the children, without having to worry about income or any issues. Or men desire to have a woman like that in their life or as their life partner. Understanding the media we consume also has just never been more important, because everyone has an agenda to push. I, right now, making this video to push that we should understand the media. But anytime you see large influencers who are promoting a brand, they're trying to make money off this brand, right? They're either earning commissions, they've already made money from the brand to do the brand deal, and then they want to get more engagement to get further brand deals. And I'm not knocking anyone, like, we gotta make money, we gotta make our coin, but it's just having visibility into the understanding of what's going on is just, I think, essential. Per GitNux, the average media consumption worldwide is 455 minutes or 7.5 hours a day. And in America, the average adult spends 11 hours or more watching, listening to, reading, or interacting with various forms of media. Now again, this doesn't just mean they sat in front of a TV all day. It could be they heard something on the radio, they were listening to music, they were listening to a podcast, they were watching a movie, whatever. Overall, they're on social media, this all adds up. And those are adults. But Americans 8 to 12 years old spend approximately 5 hours a day consuming media. Basically, consuming media is consuming our lives. I just want to add, I am totally guilty of this. I love YouTube. I go on social media platforms. I do have like child timer lock set for myself on apps like TikTok. I don't actually usually hit it, thank God, because I'm like, I think I've trained myself that, I only have an hour over the course of the day on TikTok. Like, we gotta make it sparing. But it's hard because, especially when life really kind of feels like it's sucking, you want an escape. But it's important not to escape without being aware of what we're escaping into. Hopefully this has really convinced you that you should be media literate. And if it hasn't convinced you, I'm sorry, I tried my best. But, we do what we can do. And you might be thinking, okay, Lauren, I understand these dimensions and whatever, but like, how do I actually be media literate? Like, I don't have the training that you talked about sort of throughout the video. And luckily, even if not every country offers media literacy training, we can still learn to the best of our own abilities. One resource that I totally recommend checking out, which will be linked down below, along with all the sources from everything in the video, is the News Literacy Project. It is mostly designed for students, but it can be utilized by adults as well. They have different kind of sections if it's for educational purposes, for your own purposes, for resources. They have infographics. I will put a couple on the screen just so you can see them. They cover everything from news media biases, AI, checking scientific evidence, and really so much more. The most important thing is you just start somewhere. You just start with the media you're looking at, this video. You start with this video. You start with whatever it is, and you think, okay, what is this telling me beyond what I'm just seeing face value? Like, you open Instagram, you see someone's posting a trip from their vacation to Switzerland. Like, are they trying to promote me to go to Switzerland? Like, are they an influencer? Are they like saying, hey, you should check out this particular ski lodge? Like, I know, stupid random example, literally I just thought of. But the point is just to start thinking in addition to just enjoying the content. Like instead of just being entertained with a critical lens. And that wraps up the second episode of Cinematic Conversations with me, myself, and I. Thanks so much for listening or watching, and please be sure to like, comment with any feedback or comments so I can continue to improve, and subscribe so you can get the next episode and all my other videos as soon as it drops. See you next time, and be media literate by the time I see you next. Or at least work on it. Bye.